Good morning, everybody. Good to see you all. We're going to have a fantastic session today. It's going to be giving us a lot of chizuk. Thank you for joining. We'll just give another couple of 30 seconds for people to get themselves together, get into the session, and then we're going to be continuing. So good morning to you all. Welcome to our different Professional Women's Networking Forum, sponsored by ACI and the Reinhardt Foundation. We decided, Barbara and I'll introduce her officially in a moment. We decided we planned this already a while ago, and we decided last week that we are going to continue, which is why I waited after the Chag. I waited a couple of days before even advertising it, just to see, what's going on and whether we're going to be having the event. And we decided, given the nature of the topic, that we can adapt it to suit our present times. And so here we are. Welcome to, as I said, the Professional Women's Networking Forum. To be honest with you, ladies, not guys, I was actually meant to be doing this forum from Sydney, Australia. And because of the war, literally Motzei Shabbat, when it broke out, we canceled our tickets. I was meant to be enjoying a family wedding right now, but Jerusalem and Israel and Netanya and everywhere else, this is our home, and this is where we decided to stay. I have a son and son-in-law who are in the army. They've been recruited right now, like many of your families. So wishing them all and wishing Am Yisrael a safe time and, Rak Tov, as they say, and just wishing you lots of chizuk. So that being said, we're going to be continuing with our meeting, and we have a great lineup aimed for you, as I said, adapted to the situation. I'm delighted to enjoy and to welcome our guest today, Dr. Barbara Schwarck, who I'll introduce in a moment. We also have more than one breakout room planned today, and between Barbara and I will introduce and tell you what it's all about. And there's going to be active participation from your side in this so that you can come up with the maximum tools. As I say, please keep your mics on mute, your mic speakers on mute until we ask you otherwise. Obviously, in the breakout rooms, then you'll be unmuted. And feel free to use the chat. Yes, it is a networking group, but feel free also to use the chat to share and what you're feeling, what you're thinking. Let's try keep it in a positive forum. And we've also got some announcements, which I'll make a little bit later too, also about a great new group that's going to be starting off for both women and men, but I'll talk about it in a moment. And right now, let's get going and into the topic. And we're going to have a good time. We're going to have chizuk. We're here for all of you. So I'm going to spotlight Barbara. I'll remind you too that our meeting goes through till 11 o'clock. For those that don't know me, the majority of you do. My name is Lesley Kaplan, and I'm delighted to welcome you here to this group. We meet once a month, and there is something new, as I say, going to be started, which will be more than once a month, but that's for later. So let me move on to Barbara, who I'm going to spotlight now. Barbara is familiar to many of you. She's a coach. She's a serial entrepreneur. She has more than 20 years of experience. She's an academic too. She comes with lots of, great information and great mind thoughts. So Barbara, I'm going to let you do the full introduction. Welcome. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Welcome, and thank you, Lesley, for having me. I'm super excited to be here. And I want to just say off the bat that this is really for you. So we are going to be flexible with the presentation. We all know that these are extremely difficult times. And so we want to make sure that you walk away strengthened, positive, with lots of energy that you can take into your business, into your lives. I was writing a post the other day, and my son came home with lice, and I was like, it's just everything comes together, and all of a sudden I had it. So for those of you who are moms, our regular challenges go on, and we need to be flexible. And today will be that time that you will give to yourself and to your business. So I appreciate you being here. So I am going to share my screen. So be flexible here for a moment with me. And let's see, I have to Smaller.
Okay, we can see all your slides for now. So if you just
I
want to
know.
put on to the first one.
Hang on. Okay, so, all right. So again, thank you for coming. And today we're going to talk about growth and mindset in times of stress. And there are lots of times that our businesses isn't stress, but when there are times like these, like we're in a war situation, of course, it's the ultimate stress. Lesley already said a few things about me. You can see I've been doing this for a while. I actually come from a 4-generation family business in Germany. My parents used to talk about business around the dinner table, around the breakfast table, and I decided not to take over the family business because I wanted to be more creative. And I find myself as a coach to have the perfect blend of being creative and strategic, and at the same time being able to bring in psychology and neuroscience. I live in Kfar Saba. I've been in Israel for 9 years, and I get a little bit more into that in a moment. And I am the mom of 2 amazing kids. And what is most important for you to know that I really care about you, whether I know you, whether I've met you, and I care about your business success and your success as a personal. So I'm going to start with my story, and I don't usually do this, but I thought this would be helpful because what it will highlight is all the sort of major successes and failures that I had. I am kind of a private person and don't really like to talk about a lot of these kind of things, but I think for this presentation it would be really helpful. So here I am. I think I'm about 3 years old in my home in Germany where I grew up. I'm the middle child. And early on, I realized that it was going to be complicated. My parents had a very difficult marriage. There was a lot of discord, and I had a very kind of abusive childhood of where I suffered from a lot of difficult things that were done to me, and I would say my childhood already started out very stressful. I came to Israel after high school because I had to get away. It was important for me to leave Germany. There was no way that I could stay there with all that I had experienced. And in a roundabout, I came to Israel for about 1.5 years, and I did volunteer work mainly in Yad Vashem and with handicapped children. I loved Israel, and I had been here earlier, and I felt this really deep spiritual connection. And in the back of my mind, there was like, maybe one day you're able to come back. In a roundabout way, I ended up in the United States for 27 years and started my business, my education, and everything that got me going as a coach there in Pittsburgh. I got involved with a personal development organization, learned to be a volunteer, climbed my way up, facilitated, and at the age of 27, I was already facilitating large groups of people. It didn't work out with that organization, and somehow there wasn't a way for me to progress, and at the same time the organization was really shrinking. So I had to think about what I wanted to do. So coaching hadn't really been around that much in the 90s, and I came up with a program and asked 3 of my friends if they wanted to try it, and they did. So here we are, 25 plus years later, and I'm coaching. So about 9 years ago, I came to Israel. I met my partner while I was on vacation, and here's where I think it's important for you to know this, and I think many of you can understand and relate to this. I had a flourishing 6-figure business. I had clients from across the globe. I had won awards in Pittsburgh. I was really known. And I was naive when I transitioned to Israel, thinking that I was going to be able to continue my business as it was. Some people were okay with the online coaching, and I thought if I flew to Pittsburgh 3 or 4 times a year, that would help me and continue my work as it was. Where a couple of years after I came to Israel, I had my biggest year ever, but then slowly people dropped away and they decided they didn't want to work with me online, and I wasn't able to network. And then we had COVID and I wasn't able to fly. So within a few years, what was a flourishing business, because I failed to see some of the blind spot, and I failed to really be present to some of the signs, my business got smaller and smaller and smaller. And then for about 9 months, I wasn't able to work because it took the Mizrat Apnim 9 months to get me my visa. So what happened? Strike one was that I wasn't really prepared for the change. Strike two was that I didn't, that COVID came, and people didn't really want to work with me remotely. And strike three was for me that I wasn't able to work for 9 months. And at the end of that time, I had to really think about what I wanted to do. And I was really ready to go into retirement. I didn't necessarily need to work. My business had been so successful, and I had been smart about investing, that I had the luxury of not working if I had a sort of modest lifestyle. And I was considering it, and I was confused. I didn't know what kind of group I wanted to work with. Did I want to service the English speaking, the German speaking? Did I want to, improve and better my Hebrew so that I could serve the Israeli market? I was depressed. I wasn't sure. I had a hard time picking myself up. And I needed to do what many of you had to do when you came to this country, and what you have to do right now. I had to think and decide where I wanted to go. And I should say, I even hired a professional firm in the process and really helping me figure it out. And I didn't really get matched up with the right person. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about tools for setting up and growing your business, any size, at any moment. We're going to look at using feedback for transformation and growth, which I didn't do. We're going to look at neuroscience, the emotions, and the fight, flight, or freeze. And we're going to look at tips to cope with extreme stress like right now, and to nurture the CEO of your company, which is you. You are the CEO of your company. And we're going to have some time for networking. We're going to have next steps. Lesley's going to talk about some things. We're going to have a giveaway. And we are going to make sure that you get a chance to exchange with people in breakout rooms. Okay, so Lesley, do we want to do a breakout room right now, or do we want to?
Let's do a breakout room. If you can please just take off your slide for a moment, and I'll just explain it.
Okay, let's see.
Okay, well, you can see it. Everyone can see it here. All right, let me also just remove the spotlight. Okay, so I also want to just remind you before we open up the breakout rooms, for those of you that don't remember, you have 2 ways of seeing everyone on the screen. On your top right-hand side, or for those of you that are new to Zoom, where you see the view written, you can either choose to view this in gallery format or in speaker format. So choose whatever works for you. But certainly when it comes to the breakout rooms, so there you'll be able to see everybody. So what are we going to do in this first set of breakout rooms? It is going to be for 7 minutes, and I'm going to be timing it too. And you'll get an introduction and a warning, when we're going to be ending. This is the time for you to share with your fellow members of the group what you've been going through. Let's try and keep it positive, but on the other hand, we want to be authentic, and we want to share what we're really feeling. This is a time that we can share, get support, get chizuk, and also what positive things you've maybe learned about yourself, or that may have come out of a situation. As we know, very often when we have a negative situation, or something like a war or COVID or whatever it is, we often pivot, or we learn things about ourselves, we strengthen ourselves and our family. So if you have learned anything positive, mention that too. So do that. This is the sharing. This is the time for chizuk, and then we're going to come back in 7 minutes time. I've randomly assigned you to a group. So we're going to open now, and I remind you that we pause the recording, which I'm doing now. So for those of you watching the recording, you'll come back after the. Okay, ladies, we're back from the breakout rooms. And for those that are watching the recording, 7 minutes is not a long time, but I hope that you managed to at least have the opportunity to start sharing a couple of things. And we will have the opportunity to be doing more breakout rooms again. So Barbara, let's take it away. We're back with you, and let's get into the depth of our discussion and how we can strengthen ourselves.
Perfect. Hang on, let me share my screen.
Right, a reminder to keep yourselves muted, and Barbara will give the opportunity if to unmute yourself.
Awesome. So I hope you got some value from that and met some ladies that you didn't know, because it's important for us to share. So this next part of the presentation, I just want to sort of fly through, because many of you have probably thought about this, you've looked at this, but it's important at any point in our business to look at this and to revalue it. And I usually suggest that once a year you ask yourself again, who am I? You know, who am I as a person? What are my values? What's important to me? What am I selling? Usually we're either selling services, or we're selling widgets. We have an actual tangible thing that we're selling, or experiences. Where am I going in the future? And I think these are questions that are important right now. How much do I want to sell? And how do I want to sell? What are my goals? And what's my current structure? What's my process? When I started my first business, I really shied away from this, because I thought this was just for big business, you know, like businesses like my parents who were in the millions, and not like some small person starting out. But I can tell you that when you take the time to think about these things, your business will grow faster. So about two years into my business, into my coaching business, I hired a coach, and I told my coach that I wanted to triple my business. And he told me, not so fast, you know, how about a goal of just doubling your business by the end of the year? And I told him that I wanted to triple my business, and I did. And about 5 years into me being a coach, I was actually able to triple my business. And I was in the 6 figures at that point. Okay, so when you are in this process of setting goals and you're looking at your vision and your mission, most of us don't like to do that, because we're shying away from the emotions that can bring up, because oftentimes those are difficult questions. Maybe you start with enthusiasm and you say, yeah, I want to do this. And then comes the hard part about, how do I plan for it? And, hard work, but I don't like cold calling, or all the parts of the business that we're not so excited about. It's important that you sit with yourself and that you allow yourself to get uncomfortable. And we're going to look at this in the second part of the presentation. It's like, don't be afraid of your emotions. Don't be afraid that, oh my God, how am I going to stay afloat through these next couple of weeks? What am I going to do? Because I can't, I'm a travel agent and nobody's coming to Israel anymore. It's like, that's okay. What is important is that we create a container to be with these emotions, and that we hold for ourselves. And you can do this, with a friend, with a coach, with somebody, maybe you have a partner that you can do this with, that you hold with yourself, and that you allow yourself to go to the bottom. Because when we are at the bottom with our emotion, there's a natural response that happens, and that is that we go automatically back up. So what we're doing actually is we're spending so much energy on not wanting to go down the tunnel, because we think, oh my God, once I'm down there, I'm never going to get back up. But that's not true. So just create a process for yourself and a space for yourself where you can be with these emotions that come up as you're looking at, who am I? What's my mission? What's my vision? And maybe I don't know. And see what happens, and allow yourself to sort of like hit the bottom, because what will happen is that you will bounce back up, and then you will get that energy. So there are lots of things that you can do. There are goal sheets, there are wheels, there are coaching group, there are mastermind groups. Lesley's going to talk about her group. I'm going to talk a little bit about my group. They're very different. There's self-study, there's enroll in a course, feedback. It's important that you are working with you because you are the hub, you're the CEO of your business. Now, here's something important that I learned. Most of us were not very comfortable with feedback. And what is important is that you check yourself before you get some feedback, and you look at what is my natural inclination and what is my response to feedback. So I told you earlier, I lived in the United States for 27 years. And in the United States, feedback is a very tricky thing. And I think it comes from the employment law, because there's employment at will, and it's very easy to fire somebody. So people are kind of very tentative with feedback. It's not given very direct, and maybe it's also a little bit of the culture. And that's very different, I think, than feedback that you get in Israel or feedback that you would get in Germany. It's important that you check yourself and see how you respond to feedback. Some of us, we don't want to hear it. Some of us, we close our eyes and we close our ears. Some of us, we like to run away. Some of us, we get depressed and we're afraid of what that will bring for us. But what is important is that you listen, you take the best, and then you leave the rest. And that could mean that sometimes you will take a little bit of feedback, just a tiny little bit, and you say, okay, this other piece I'm not ready for, I'm going to deal with it later. But that you open yourself to the process of looking at the feedback. Like I told you my story earlier, and one of the things I didn't want to listen to was that people started to complain that they weren't comfortable with me doing all this work online. They weren't sure that it was effective for me to run, weekly groups online. It was before COVID, and people weren't really used to it. Now it's a different story. But I was running staff meeting once a week on a Monday, and because I wasn't there as much and I couldn't really, see what happened in the conversation that would happen afterwards, I wasn't able to fully get the picture of how people felt about it. I was also not paying attention to the fact that I hadn't really pivoted my pipeline, and that my ability to network was taken because I wasn't in Pittsburgh as much. And quickly people, I don't know that they necessarily forgot about me, but I wasn't physically present, so they couldn't see me. So I wasn't getting as many referrals. And when my big clients, my 3 big clients decided to disengage with me, it was much, much, much more difficult for me to find new clients that were willing, because I didn't have that constant networking and ability to present. So let's talk a little bit about feedback, because one of the things that we said we were going to talk about was feedback. And we want to use this feedback for transformation and growth. Many of you might know about Johari. It's a famous concept that comes to us from psychology. And it's named after the 2 guys that invented it, Joseph Luft and Harrington Ingham. And both of them were actually born in 1916. And what it was designed to do is to help people understand about blind spots and knowing about themselves. So you can see here we have these different windows, and some of the things, so we have 2 categories. We have known to ourselves, not known to ourselves, and we have known to others and not known to others. And there are things that are known to us and they're known to others. For instance, we all know that we live in Israel. It's known to you, it's known to others. Or we all know that we speak English. It's known to you and it's known to others. But then things get a little bit more complicated. So for instance, it's known to me that I was born and raised in Germany on June 12, 1964. Now, in the moment that I share that with you, you also know that, and it's known to you. But there's a lot of information that's known to me, but it's not known to others. Then there are things that are known to you about me that you've maybe picked up, and I don't know, they're not known to me immediately. So we call those blind spots. And then we have an even deeper part of the consciousness, and like a deeper blind spot. These are the things that are not known to ourselves and are not known to others. And when we look towards the blind spots and we look in the unconscious and subconscious unknown, that is really most of the part of where we derail our business. Because maybe you're saying to me, hey, Barbara, I'm doing all the right things for my business, but it's not moving forward, or it's not going the way I want to. Then the time has come for you to take a moment to look at, potential blind spots, and to look at the unknown and to the unconscious. Oops. Okay. So how do we do that? How do we actually get some information about feedback? And when we originally put this presentation together, Lesley asked me to talk about 360 employee feedback, and I've done about 100 of those for a huge company in Europe, and then I've developed my own 360 feedback. So about 360 employee development feedbacks are not necessarily the best for small business owners. So I wanted to also mention some other ways to do feedback. So a 360, for those of you who don't know, is a way to get anonymous feedback about somebody. And it usually is done online, where people fill out a survey, and it's done with different constituencies. So you have your supervisor, you have your direct reports, you have your customers, and you have your colleagues. And people will say things about that person, and the person will also evaluate themselves. And then the aggregate gives feedback about that person, how they're doing, and how they see their work, and how they see themselves. And usually in a traditional executive coaching engagement, that will be the starting point for somebody to be coached. When we are doing this, or if we would adapt this as a solo entrepreneur, one of the things that you could do, you could actually do what's called a live 360. And you could do it yourself, or you could ask somebody to do it for you. And that would be to go to different constituencies and ask a set of questions about how they see you, what they see as your value, and get all kinds of feedback about your work, including your marketing, your products, your services, all the things that you want to get some information about. This is a little bit different than customer service evaluations, but a customer service evaluation could also be part of that. So you would design that. Sometimes I've done this rebranding with my company several times. One of the exercises that I had was to go and ask my customers, what they thought was most important about me. And it's super interesting, because what I thought was most important, or the value that I was offering to them, was not necessarily the feedback that I got back. So it was important for me then to adjust maybe my messages, my messaging, and the way that I presented myself to have more of an alignment with that. You can get feedback from family and friends about how they see you in your business, how they see you outside your business. And of course, there's feedback from the universe. And then there's self-evaluations, such as you sitting down with yourself, maybe for a period of days in a row, and just write about, how does it feel for me to be a business owner, or what's not working, or where's my, what is the feeling that I have in my stomach, or how am I responding to the situation right now? One of the things, and I can't stress this enough, that whatever you're feeling right now, wherever your thoughts are about what's going on with your business, your worries, your concerns, it's okay. And I encourage you to write it down and be with it. And we'll do a little bit more sharing in a moment, because it's important that we clear that space, and so that we can make room for new things to come. So just to give you a visual of this is what a 360 looks like. You have like this little slide about who's participating, and then there's competencies that you have. And it's not very complicated. You can really design this for yourself based on what's important to you. And if you have a mission and vision, it's easy for you to come up with the right competencies for you. In our case, what we did is we kind of structured in such a way that we had being skills, like the way that you show up, and then you had doing skills, the actual tasks that you would do. Early on, I had sort of a small business proficiency questionnaire that I designed, had these 13 questions, and people would evaluate themselves. There's lots of those online available. If you want to, I can also send this to you. Just email me afterwards. I'm happy to. So that if you want to take it, you can take a look. There's what's called the Wheel of Life exercise, a very famous tool. I like to use this a lot. And what the wonderful thing about this is that you can change it. And so you can decide what these categories are. So, you know, one of the things that I used to do early on is to teach a course for small entrepreneurs. And we replaced these things with the 8 competencies in business. So we would look at this and say there's 4 things that are working in your business, and there's 4 things working on your business, and you can evaluate how you're doing. This is a wheel of life, meaning it looks at the areas in your life, and it gives you a quick way just to take a look at, you know, how am I doing? And it's not a way to compare yourself to others. That's not how it's meant. It's a way for you to just really check in with yourself. And again, I can send this to you. Okay, so I think it's good for us to have another breakout room. And here's what I'm suggesting that we share, because we're going to meet other people. Is just quickly say, who am I? So you say your name and tell them what you do. And I challenge you to say it in 1 or 2 sentences. And then name one area where you've gotten some negative feedback. And then, because we want to stay positive, is name one thing that you can do today to remedy or to alternatively identify one thing that you can do to move your business forward. And I wanted to give you an example so that you kind of get an idea of what to do here. So my name is Barbara Schwarck. I assist CEOs, business owners, and individuals like you to neutralize their negative beliefs so that they can manifest both personally and professionally the life that they dreamt of. And one of the areas that I've gotten negative feedback on is that I don't share my beliefs. I don't share enough about me, that I sort of keep it on the surface and I don't get too personal. And one thing that I can do today, and I actually did it, is to share a little bit more about my successes and my failures of what went well in my business. And you know, one of the things I don't like to do is to actually share that I have a very, very successful coaching business. So that's what I'm sharing with you today. Okay, Lesley, are you with us?
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so Barbara, if you can please just take down your screen, that'll be great. So we're going to open up the rooms. I've recreated them, so you may land up being with the same person, but the chances are not, because they were recreated. Barbara, 7 minutes is good for this too?
Yes, please.
Okay, so some of you are 3 in the room, some are 4 of you in the room. So be straight to the point. And if one of you can just take charge and everyone gets a chance to talk. And if we see that we need another minute or 2, then we'll do that, seeing there's 3 or 4 of you in the room. So let's take it away. So if you can all unmute yourselves, open up your cameras, please, for this part, because you can't be part of a breakout room without the camera so easily. Let's take it away. Share all your heart out. Okay, welcome back from the breakout rooms. I hope you had enough time to share. And if we see there's more time for anything, great. If not, we will share in some other format afterwards. Before we continue with Barbara and with the different mind thought, I just wanted to share 2 things with you. Okay, I'm delighted to announce, and you're the first people to hear about it, that in addition to this monthly group, we're starting a new group from next week, October 23rd. It'll be on a Monday morning from 9 to 9:30, every single Monday morning for 30 minutes of inspiration, of motivation, free of charge, no commitment. You can join whenever you want, open to men and women of all ages, not just in business, but also the layman, seniors, the students, employees, wannabe business owners. This is the time we all need inspiration. We all need motivation on the one hand. And on the other, this is our chance to be able to spotlight people. So our first guest, every week I'll be having a different guest. And basically it's a great opportunity for you also as business owners to be our spotlight and to actually be there to give an inspirational message and to talk about your business. So if you would like to be one of the spotlights, one of our spotlights, please can you message me separately? You're welcome to write it even in the chat here, spotlight. But otherwise, message me. You have my email. You have me on Messenger, LinkedIn, WhatsApp, whatever, and I'll be happy to try accommodate you. Our first speaker, who is very, very well known for next week, next Monday at 9 a.m. is Hillel Fuld, which many of you know. He's very active on social media. He's a marketer. He's a speaker. He's in social media. He deals with high tech, and he's a great speaker, very inspirational. I do want to add as well, this talk is open to irreligious, religious, every single sector, and it's apolitical. So even if you see that somebody is a speaker and he or she, especially now, people are quite active on social media and giving their opinions, the actual talks and the actual motivation is apolitical. So 20 minutes of this will be basically the spotlight, giving inspiration to others, sharing a story, sharing any kind of inspirational message. And the last 10 minutes will basically be for you, your time to give and have accountability, plan and write your goals for the week. Yes, it's on a Monday, not a Sunday. I do know that, but Monday is still early enough also to plan for the week. Think about your goals, give you some food for thought based on the inspiration from the group as well as from the speaker. So save the date. I'll be sending out details today, every single Monday, 9 a.m. to 9:30. Put in your calendars. That's the first thing. The second thing is Monday is my day where I usually do things. Today, as I say, was on a Wednesday because I was meant to be abroad. Save the day too for November 13th. Hopefully the war will be over by then and we can get back to normal and have regular and other topics. If we see we need to adjust the topic, we will do so. But in the meantime, save the date, November 13th. You'll get information by email too with Chava Scheinowitz on how AI affects your social media, tools, tips. Everyone's talking about AI. So those are the two things for you to save, and I look forward to seeing you at those events. In the meantime, let's take it away, Barbara. I'm going to spotlight you again, and we're going to be continuing with our conversation.
Okay, super. That's super. Thank you, Lesley. All right. So we're going to talk about emotions. We're going to talk about neuroscience, and I think it's very apropos for what we're dealing with right now. So in the last couple of years, neuroscience has been really featured, and it's entered a lot of conversations when we're talking about coaching, when we talk about marketing, and also everyday life. So for those of you who are less familiar with it, or maybe you've heard this before, I want to talk a little bit about the brain and the way it's set up, and look at this as, is it our friend? Is it our foe? How do we deal with the brain? And the purpose of me talking about it is for you to have a better understanding about what is going on with your emotions right now, so that you can regulate them better, manage them better, and have make better decisions. So here is basically the way our brain looks, what it looks like. And I'm going to talk about the three different parts of our brains. We have the neocortex, we have the limbic system, and we have the reptilian. Now, I make this very simple. I'm not a neuroscientist, and it's important that it's simple so that we can understand. And let me tell you a little bit about the three different parts of the brain. The neocortex is the part of your brain where all the rational processes happen. So it's your thinking, it's your anything that has to do with analytics, it's language, all those kind of things. I need that part. We need this part because we can't set goals. We can't process things without language. So when you think about something, you think about a tree that is immediately has some language and has some letters associated with it. So it's very important. And every time that we want to move ourselves forward, that part of the brain is involved. Now, this part of the brain, the neocortex, is the only part of the brain that's actually conscious. Conscious meaning that you can control it. So theoretically, you can control the thoughts that come into your brain, or at least you immediately can cut them off. You can redirect them, and you are in charge of what comes out of your mouth. So I know it's very difficult, and most of us, we have a really hard time controlling what we say and what we think. but we have the capabilities. So let me say this again. This part of the brain only is 10% of the entire, your entire brain. The next part of the brain is what's called the limbic brain, the emotional brain. That is the part of the brain where all of the emotions are happening. This part also regulates your temperature, which means when you have intense emotions, you might have noticed that your temperature changes, meaning you get hotter, you get colder, you break out in a sweat, lots of things associated with it. Emotions are biochemical chain reactions. That means you cannot control them. Okay, so when you have a fear reaction, when you have an anxiety reaction, when you're overwhelmed, when you're joyous, those are things that happen automatically to you. What we can't control is what we do afterwards. So we can have the emotion and then we can have a pause, ideally, and then think about or decide what we want to do. Emotions are usually based on patterns and tracks that were laid down a long time in our consciousness. We know about intergenerational trauma. It's been researched that it goes back at least 2 generations. Actually, they think more like 7. And so if you think about 7 generations back, we live in Israel. Of course, we don't need to go back that far. We can stay in the right now. Everybody's had trauma in their lives, and it's been compacted because there's been trauma on trauma on trauma on trauma, which means the emotional response to things is much more intense because it's not just the now, it also goes back in the track and the things that you experienced before. Okay, the reptilian brain. The reptilian brain is the fight, flight, or freeze. That is the part of the brain that's all about survival. Right now, that part of the brain is super activated, meaning our fight, flight, or freeze is completely engaged. Depending on who you are, you're going to be tending to do one thing more than the other, but not necessarily always in the same way. So for some of us, when it's about our children, we're totally into we're fighting. For some of us, when it's about us, we're more into the running away. And then there might be a different area where it's more about playing dead. So the fight, flight, or freeze is very much like nature. So animals, what do? They either attack, they run away, or they play dead, meaning they change colors. So because of the situation that we're in, you need to understand that that part is very, very activated because we are actually experiencing a threat to our lives, to our loved ones, to our business at the very moment. Now, 90% of what you do, how you act, how you feel, why you came to this call, why am I wearing a blue shirt? Why do I have children? All this has been motivated and regulated by the limbic system and by the reptilian. Take in addition to that, our levels of awareness. And so what I just told you is that 90% of what moves us forward is this part of the iceberg that we can't see. So we have the conscious level, it's the neocortex, it's the only stuff that's on top here. And then we have the subconscious level, and then we have which is the limbic, and then we have the unconscious. So it's 88, they actually say it's more like 90 or 95%. The difference between the subconscious level and the unconscious level is that the subconscious level I can actually get in touch with. So imagine that you have a beach ball, and that beach ball is full of air, and you're doing all of that you can in order to push it below the water. What happens when you release the pressure? The beach ball comes right back up. So we can access the emotions, the uncomfortable emotions that we have that are in the subconscious level relatively easily. And what a lot of us do, we do take energy in order to make them go away, such as we work a lot, or we Netflix, or we drink, or whatever we do. We all have our coping mechanisms because we don't want to experience them that much. Now, what you need to understand is that they are going on anyway in your system. And so the more energy that you use on pushing them down, the faster you're going to exhaust yourself, because they're there. You can't do anything about it. It's a biochemical chain reaction. Now, there's a famous book. It's called Descartes, the philosopher Descartes' Era. It's by an Italian author called Antonio Damasio, and he talks about in the book, he explains to us that this whole notion of I think, therefore I am is really not correct according to neuroscience. So what we know is that our eyes are hardwired into your limbic system. So what you see, when you see something, there's an immediate emotional reaction with the things that you see, which is one of the things that people are saying is don't watch the news all the time. Limit your screen time, especially right now, because there's no good news coming. And every time you see something, you have even more, you overload your limbic system because the optical nerve is hardwired into that part of the brain. So what happens is that you see something, you have an emotional reaction, and then you go into your neocortex and you explain to yourself, what did you just see? Okay, so it's not that I'm thinking, then I have a feeling, it's actually the other way around. I see something, and then I go into my intellect and I explain something to myself. One more thing I want to talk about, to talk to you about the brain. So we have basically these three elements. And the brain goes, what's happening right now? What's my perception? What has happened in the past? I go into my memory bank and look at a comparable situation and see if my experience of that situation was safe or not safe. And then I generate actions in the present based on my stored memory that results in survival. So this is my first sort of second time around in Israel, and I go into my memory bank, and all the other times in my memory bank where I was in situations that were kind of threatening, and then I see and I decide whether it's safe or not safe, or I can function. So when you find yourself at times not being able to function the way that you were able to, it really has to do with the fact that your reptilian brain is telling you that it's not safe and that it's difficult for you to function. So I'm telling you all of this just to understand and tell yourself all the things that I'm doing. It's normal. It's for all of us, it's a little bit different, but the brain is set up that way. And that there are ways that we can help ourselves. And in a moment, I will talk a little bit about what we can do in order to help our reptilian brain and our limbic system, so that we can make some room so it's easier for us to function. One of the things that happens is that when our reptilian brain is triggered, is your peripheral vision, for instance, decreases by 50%. And so there's all kinds of things that are not where we're not functioning as well, as concentration, etc. Our language doesn't become perhaps not as crisp or as sharp, and to be compassionate and loving and kind with yourself when you experience that. Okay, so I'm going to switch here for a moment and talk a little bit about modalities and things that you can do in order to support yourself. So many of you, and there's actually people here on the call that do this kind of work, you know, whether it's NLP or tapping EFT or different kind of hypnosis, dream work, guided images, beliefs work. These are all things that will help you in the moment, even though oftentimes they're geared at the different layers that are sitting in your consciousness. So when we take the time to take a look at the mountain of layers that are in our consciousness that is getting us to feel this intensity right now, we are actually helping ourselves by reducing the intensity. So there's a couple of things I want to highlight. So one of them is freeform writing. So freeform writing is a technique that I've been using for, honest to God, 30 years. And what you do is you take a piece of paper and a pen, and you sit down for, if you can, 30 minutes, but if you can't, take 15 minutes. And you write down everything that comes into your mind and everything that you experience without censoring yourself. You just write. And before you write, you make this promise to yourself that you will destroy the piece of paper without reading it again. So this is important. So before you start, you make a promise, you figure this out. Where am I going to burn it, or how am I going to destroy it? and I will not read it. And so then, because you have now promised to yourself that nobody will ever be able to read it, you write, and you write your frustration, and you really allow yourself to feel the depth of the emotion. And the point is, like I mentioned earlier in the presentation, it's for you to actually allow yourself in a safe way to hit the bottom, and so that you can come back up. Now, you may need to do this a couple of times. Maybe you do this a few days in a row where you take 10, 15, 20 minutes if you have it, and you write and you write. And so that you can create space inside yourself to deal with the present. So, and if you have more questions about it, please contact me afterwards. I'm happy to share more about it. Another thing that's very helpful right now is being of service to self and others. So yesterday I was talking to a client of mine who's doing all kinds of tremendous work in Jerusalem, helping people get organized and providing things for families that have nothing. Now, what's important is that there's a balance, that you make sure that you take care of yourself first. This is to all of us, and I tell myself the same. We must take care of ourselves first so that we can help take care of others. If you're taking care of others all the time and you're not replenishing yourself, you're going to get resentful, you're going to get burned out, and then really it's like, okay, you help these people and it's really, really important, but you didn't really help yourself. So we want to make sure that you take care of yourself. And I know it's difficult sometimes, so that you commit to one little thing that you haven't been doing up until now that you maybe add to your self-care routine. Now, I want to quickly talk about what I do. People, many of you do know, I've created something called neuroemotional coaching. What it does, it helps you to change your response to circumstance, meaning it eliminates or alleviates the response that you have to situations right now. Oftentimes, I use it in business because people are not in line with the goals that they want to have and their negative beliefs that are in the way. But it's really meant for times like now as well, where you have the opportunity to really eliminate a lot of the stress and the anxiety that you're feeling around your business, around your family and your personal situation. It makes room for new and supportive beliefs, and it definitely uncovers the blind spot that we were talking about earlier, and gets into the subconscious and unconscious and connects the dots in your consciousness between what's going on now and what was going on previously, and why is that so intensely, why am I experiencing it so intensely strong? And it really increases your ability to take action, I want to say by 1,000-fold. Just to give you a better understanding of it, basically we're looking at making assertions, and the technique gets you physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually aligned with the statement and the beliefs that you want to have about yourself. Okay, I wanted to do a breakout room, but I think we only have 15 minutes, and I want to leave time for questions and answers. What I would like you to do right now is to take a moment to just write down 2 positive beliefs. So as I've been speaking, I'm sure some of you had some positive beliefs coming up and some negative beliefs around, oh, I can't do this, what's she talking about? This is too hard, whatever, it's okay. And then look at the next potential positive belief that can match that. So, and I want you to be very specific about it. And oftentimes when we start to write positive beliefs, we write things like, I believe that I can overcome, on my typo here, I can overcome fear. That is a double negative. So write it in a positive way. I'm courageous and I can do anything I put my mind to, or I am okay right now. So just take a moment right now and write 2 positive beliefs, and I encourage you to make it real and put them in the chat. So let's see what kind of positive beliefs you have. And Lesley, maybe you can read some of them for us as people are writing them.
I will. Take this time to share it. You don't have to write it in the chat. More important, it is for yourself to actually write it down.
That's right. That is the most important thing.
Right.
So as you're thinking and writing, I'll say a few things. So I've done 2 support groups where I've worked with people, and basically what we worked on was just, I'm okay right now. I'm okay right now. Because just affirming that statement will give you a lot of courage and a lot of power and a lot of energy just to just keep going. Or I can stay
Right, and
present
that's
right
exactly
now.
what Lauren wrote. We both heard that from another group that we joined with you this last week. I'm okay right now. Ellen wrote, I can help others. And naturally, we know if we're in a position to help others, then we're in a better position to help ourselves too. Yeah, Elle wrote, I can do anything I set my mind to, as long as I tell myself I can do it. That's always been my mantra, but I forget about it sometimes. Okay, Leanne wrote, my art workshops change lives for the better. Great, keep on
Wonderful.
writing, ladies.
Awesome. And what I suggest is that you take your lipstick out and write it on your mirror in the bathroom. And if you're not a lipstick lady, then, put it on your phone. Make this visible. And so that you can see it often so that you don't forget it. And that you can say it to yourself, several times a day. You can record it. There's all kinds of tools where you can record it 10 times, and you can put it on autoplay. You can fall asleep with it. So affirmations is something that has been researched. It's super, super, super effective
Right,
for
let
many,
me
many
just
reasons.
read out a couple of others. So Sharon wrote, I'm okay. Now I'm focusing on what I can do. Esther Hadassah wrote, I'm ready to share my voice to help people in the world. Okay, Dina, I'm capable of planning, time management, and execution. Hope I won't leave out anybody. Aggie wrote, nothing is impossible is my motto. Okay, somebody else wrote, I'm okay right now. I can take positive actions today, Bev. Esther, and I know that now is the time and I can do this. Absolutely. Paula, I'm creative with a lot of energy in all I do. Judy, I can overcome anything.
That's awesome. All right.
Okay. Jess,
Here's
I
what
know that I'm in the right place and the right time. Meira, I operate from love and can help others to heal. Okay, keep on writing, ladies. Bryna wrote okay, right, she wrote what she did. Lorraine, I have the courage to make it through the difficult time. Okay, you can read it in the chat. Judy, I feel I can recreate to a better direction. I love assisting in planning events. Sharon,
Awesome.
I'm focusing on gratitude. Shira, I'm okay with charging people for my services. Yeah, that's important. And note that I have. Aviva, I'm successful. Tali, I believe I'm emotionally strong. We could go on and on. Jess, I'm strong, control my habits. That's what I'm going to read. I'm not going to read out the rest. You can see them.
Super. That's fantastic. Thank you so much. It's really great. And can you see how our energy is going up? Because we're all putting our positive energy into the space.
Mm-hmm.
Super. So just quickly, so healthy habits, good time management, planning skills, positive self-talk like we just did, creating a support system, agility. We need to adapt. We need to revise. We as women are really good at this, celebrating the small wins. And we need to, now's really a good time.
Sorry to interrupt you, Barbara. Just whoever's written Zoom user, I'm removing you just that we don't have any infiltration here. So if you were written as Zoom mover, you're being removed and you're welcome to join with your name.
Awesome. Fantastic. Okay. Discipline, keeping your word. These are really important things right now. So you can take a screenshot if you want. What does it to have a good support system? Friends, family, co-workers, maybe workout buddy. Maybe now I want to start my workout because I need it. Now is a good time to see a coach, a mentor, health practitioners, get a massage. Really good time. So I talked about freeform writing. I told you all about that. We talked about positive self-talk. There's vision boards there, something called ideal scenes that I do with my clients. You can record it. You got this. We got this.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of vision boards, by the way. Whoever's worked with me and has been in my groups, I'm a huge fan of it. And it's helped me achieve a lot of my goals.
Perfect. All right. So here's tips for the reptilian brain, the fight, flight, or freeze. Sleep, water, diet, exercise, being with friends and family, turn that phone off, the news, prayer, meditation, mindfulness, all those things will help you quiet down your fight, flight, or freeze, which means whatever's going on that makes you feel like this overwhelm, anxiety will go down because you took care of yourself. I did my PhD on relationship with God, and how do we feel in our skin. And I had people do a set of skills, and the thing that was most important was sleep. Okay. I want you to take a moment after we're done, take 5 or 10 minutes to really write down one of the things that you take away from this presentation and one of the things that you're really going to implement. You guys all know about SMART goals, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, accountable, and time-based. I added a few things here. So really write down, what are you going to do? What's it going to look like specifically? How will it support me? Why does it matter? Who will know when it's done? And by when am I going to do it? So you can take a screenshot of this and then really, really take this an hour and a half that you spent here with us and implement it into your personal life, your business life, or both of them. It's important that you tell your basic self, that part of you that supplies you with energy, that you actually did something with what you learned today. Okay, very quickly, I mentioned I also have a coaching group coming up. It's 8 weeks. It's just for women. We work a lot with negative and unconscious beliefs. You can contact me if you want to afterwards. It starts next week. And with that, we are open up for Q&A.
Great, thank you, Barbara. So let's just take off the screen share for now. If you can just take it off. And 2 things I want to mention. So number one, there was a question asked, how can we sleep during a state of war? And I know that that's a challenge for me, that I haven't slept a good night since Motzei Shabbat. And I don't know if you guys or ladies are finding it that I have my phone next to the bed so that I can hear if there's the Pikuda Orif. But at the same time, I find I'm waking up in the middle of the night and curious to reach out and see what's been happening. And that's something that I don't normally reach out in the middle of the night to my phone. So that's something that I need to work on. And I'm sure we've all got elements that we need to work on as well. Okay. Before we do question and answers, I would love to get a photo shot of us all. And I know we're in wartime, but one of the things I wrote in the tip is actually learning to smile and making sure we smile. So how about if we just do like a little heart like this? And with your permission, I'll put it on Facebook. I won't tag anyone, but with your permission, smile, don't smile, whatever you want, but let's do a heart. I'm just going to take some pictures and let the world show that we're strong. And by us being strong and us keep on smiling, then we can handle ourselves and a lot of things better as well. Any questions for Barbara? Anyone like to ask anything that she's spoken about? Any of the tips? Lauren, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, Barbara, any tips for getting back to sleep when you wake up in the middle of the night anxious?
Yeah, that would help me too.
So I think that's a good question. So good sleep health is really important. So I would suggest that you do some breathing exercises. And if you're not used to doing breathing, then start during the day and figure out what works for you. There are some breathing exercises where you can hold the base of your head and your heart. It will calm down the vagal nerve. There's some breathing in to the count of 4, holding and breathing out. You figure out which way works best for you that calms you down. That's one. If you wake up in them, I'm also a poor sleeper, which is why, I worked on this. So make sure it's dark. Have you in a dark room. Make sure that the temperature is a little cooler than you would usually like it. Those are all little tips that will actually help you fall easier asleep. But I would go with the breathing.
And by the way, Carolyn just shared with us in the chat, there's a podcast called Boring Yourself to Sleep. Thank you, Carolyn. So that could be worthwhile checking out. Did you want to add anything or no?
For me, podcasts don't work because they make my brain awake. But I would do the breathing. And beforehand, it's really important that 1 hour before you go to bed, don't have any screens. No food, no screens. I know it's really difficult right now, but see what you can do in order to stay away from the screen.
Absolutely. Carolyn, did you want to add something?
Yeah, hi. Sorry I'm late. I would have brought a letter from my parents, but that would be something out of this world.
With your lovely accent, it's a delight to hear you.
Thank you. I want to say, I'll talk a little bit about myself later on, but I want to just say about the podcast. There are various podcasts about boring yourself to sleep. It's basically an Australian guy, for any of you Australians out there, and he talks in the most boring voice and he reads you a book. And trust me, that nobody gets past the second or third line and you just fall asleep. Just check on your podcasts on any of your platforms, Spotify, about sleeping podcasts. And I'm well before this. I always, I can say that I've always listened to them when I have a problem. Also, when you wake up, you can listen to it and you can easily listen to them on your phone.
Right,
That's
absolutely. And music and other calming things as well. Thank you. Carolyn, feel free to write what you do in the chat, okay? Because you're not new to Manatanya group, but you're new to this group. So, we don't have time for everyone to talk what they do. So feel free to write what you do in the chat. Carolyn also has a great podcast. Okay,
Lovely.
Barbara, anything else? Any other wrap-up points? Anyone want to add anything? Just raise your hand if you do. If not, we've had really, really good food for thought. Barbara, do you want to wrap up with a couple of sentences? We have literally 3 minutes.
I do. So I want you all to take, imagine that you have a glass of water in your hand. So whether you have it, just put it in your hand and look at this beautiful glass of water. And now take a moment to put all negativity in it. Put your whatever, all the negativity that you have in your water, out there that's floating, whether you lost a client and, somebody yelled at you and there are missiles flying around. So would you take a sip of this water?
Nope.
All right, so dump it out and fill it with positivity. I love myself. I can do this. We will prevail. We're together. We're supportive. And now take a sip of this water. And fill yourself up with it. Beautiful.
On that note, on the sip of this water, let's pretend it's a glass of wine. And let's say a l'chaim to good life and genuine peace and safety and health and getting back to normal and true safety for all of Am Yisrael, for our Chayalim. This was a special edition, a special meeting that we had where we were able to learn more about ourselves, how we can control our thoughts and also help develop ourselves and our businesses at the same time. And that's something that, I've seen all the different groups and in the Facebook groups that some people are. Barbara, you want to take it off? The screen share?
Yeah,
hold on for a moment.
And
this is something that, thank you, this is something that we can all work on. And I certainly find for myself that the more we're in control, the more we're able to not only help ourselves, our businesses, but also everybody else around us. We're able to do, whether it's you volunteer or one of the things I wrote that I put the link in the chat for an article I sent it to, but I revised some of it and I wrote something on the Times of Israel, is that every one of us has strengths in some different aspects. And we all know what our strengths are. And some of it came up also with what Barbara spoke about. So if we can use our strengths in whichever thing we're good at to help others in this particular situation, that's when you'll not only help yourself, but you'll be helping others. You may see people are volunteering and you're not doing that, or you may be see that somebody's doing something else. We each have our own place, so we can do something. So whatever small or large thing you feel that you can do, whether it's, donating, whether it's going shopping for Chayalim, or whether it's putting out content on the internet, whatever it is, you want to be able to feel good about yourself. So on that note, Barbara, thank you very, very much. It was a great presentation. Even as a coach, I love learning and hearing other aspects, and a lot of the things gel with what I do too. So I look forward to seeing you at future meetups. I hope that you'll be joining me on Monday. For anyone that joined late, I'll be sending you an email this coming Monday, October the 23rd, every single Monday, and join whenever you want. There's no commitment. It's free of charge from 9 to 9:30. Stay safe. Keep your family safe. And thank you for joining us. And Basorot Tovot La'am Yisrael. Have a great, safe day. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you for joining.
Lesley.
Bye.